What is going on, San Antonio Spurs fan? This is Coach Rob Trejo Jr., and you're listening to the Spurs Tube TV podcast right here on YouTube. Today, in this episode, we're going to continue evaluating this roster, and we're going to take an in particular dive into not just the rookies that we have acquired this year, in Jeremy Sochan, Malaki Branham, and Blake Wesley. We're actually going to look at maybe we can tell what's going on with these rookies and what the expectation can be this season, because I would go on to say that I think this year is going to be definitely the first of many years in this near distant future over the next 4 or 5 years where we actually do start seeing rookies, at least our lottery picks, produce on the NBA floor. So that's what we're going to be going into. We're going to be talking about the individuals themselves and what their skill sets are and what we can project them to do this season, and you know what the hopes are for their projected ceilings and all that stuff. Very early on these three guys, two of them in particular we've seen in the summer league, right? In Malaki Branham and Blake Wesley. We're gonna talk a little bit about Jordan Hall as well, our undrafted rookie that we have on a two-way contract, who also played this summer with the squad. And if you go and dive into the film session that I did on this channel between the Spurs and the Cavaliers in that first game, I actually do highlight Jordan Hall quite a bit because he was a really big mystery to me at that point. So that's all coming up on this episode when we get right back. All right, so this is a new day in the Spurs organization. There is no reason to put rookies where they don't belong. And I feel like, if we're talking about the history of what we've done to try to predict our future, I don't think that works out this season. And I'll get into it a little bit more specifically. And it all starts, when we go back to the 18-19 season, right? Let's just go back that far, where we drafted Lonnie Walker with the 18th pick. And we all know the story of Lonnie, but his rookie season in particular, he didn't start any games. He only played in 17 of those games, averaging 6.9 minutes per game, right? So that's kind of what we're going to be focusing on, is the games that they played. Did they start any the rookie season, and how many minutes were they getting? Now, understand that, Lonnie came into a team that was very, very veteran heavy, and that's why opportunity wasn't really given to him. But at the same time, if he was good enough, he would have earned it. And, there's prime examples with Kawhi Leonard, showing that the Spurs will actually play a rookie if he is good enough to do what they're asking to do. So it's not like it's never been done, but Lonnie Walker at the 18th pick was not it in 18-19. Then if we go into the next season is where we had the Luka Samanic season, and we also had Keldon Johnson, right, drafted in the first round of that year. Well, Keldon obviously is the one that's still making his name and still earning quite a bit from this organization. Luka Samanic is gone. He only started in one game his rookie season. But let's talk about Keldon Johnson, since he's the more relevant guy. In Keldon's rookie year, there were 17 games that he played in. And now, again, it's also important to remember that this was during the pandemic, and Keldon actually was spending more time in San Antonio versus Austin right around the time that the pandemic and the NBA shut down during, a little bit after spring break, or during spring break in March. So, that really did stunt his rookie season. He got 5 more games in the bubble and produced there as well. But he did start in one game as well that year. But he did average 17.7 minutes in his time for the Spurs when he started getting reps, right? So he's been able to turn that into 2 more seasons of starting and getting a lot of minutes and having a major role in this team. And so what we're looking for here is to see that trend continue. And when Devin Vassell came in the very next season, he's someone that immediately had a forced position with San Antonio, didn't have to go to Austin at all, mostly because the bubble coming out of the bubble into the next season, there was no G League, right? So there was nowhere to send Devin Vassell. But if you ask me, I mean, that's the best thing that you can ask for, right? For a guy like Devin Vassell, right? He came in to his rookie season and played 62 games because of, he was there. And that's kind of been my argument, is that, hey man, if these guys don't need to go to Austin, then, we need to do a better job of keeping them around the ball club, because there's nothing wrong with, them being thrown in the fire and learning against the best of the best in the league, not just going to Austin just to learn a few things. I think there's a lot to gain through competition, right? And being going up against better competition every night versus going up against Austin. And Devin Vassell, he played 62 games his rookie year, started in 7, right? So that was our first lottery pick. Now the second lottery pick that we had the following year was Joshua Primo. He played in 50 games. Also going to Austin, though, for the majority of the season. He played in 50 games for San Antonio and started in 16. Devin Vassell started in 7, and most of those had to deal with, injuries or people being out for protocol. And Joshua Primo was the same thing, right? Injuries happened. People got either put out in health and safety protocols or were traded away from the team. And, guys like Doug McDermott, was out pretty much the whole season, the second half of the season. And that really let Joshua Primo get a lot of run. And he averaged 19.3 minutes per game. So we're talking about the minutes as well, right? So Devin Vassell in his rookie season played 17. Primo, 19. We're looking to see that trend continue here with Jeremy Sochan. I'm going to tie all this into Sochan right now, because that's kind of what this episode is about, right? We're talking about the rookies on this season and what their roles are. But I think why I'm, telling you all this about the guys over the past 4 years is that we're seeing that lottery talent, I think, is getting some type of expedition. They're getting expedited in their development and putting them in San Antonio. Yes, Primo spent a lot of time in Austin, and that might have been just because of his age and the position, the guard position. Being so young and having all the depth that was on the roster at the start of last season, really, there was no real reason to have Primo on the main roster in the beginning, right? But when we're going into this season, there's really no one in front of these guys, right? Devin Vassell finally has a runway of his own. Joshua Primo is going to have very limited people to compete with, right? When we're talking about veterans, which has been the issue over the past few years for these rookies getting minutes. So let's talk about Jeremy Sochan now and what he's going to be able to do year one, what my expectations are for this kid, and kind of my first impressions looking at his college tape. Again, we didn't get to see him play in the summer league because he went into health and safety protocols and then had to miss training camp, ended up missing the whole thing, right? He was there in attendance, but he did not play. But something that was missing was an X factor in that summer league. We just needed that guy that was just better than everyone else on the floor. Primo wasn't able to do that for the 2 games that he was there, and the rookies looked like rookies. But, every team had that one guy that was just better than most, and I feel like ours was going to be Sochan, but, he didn't get to play. So really diving into what he's capable of doing and what we should expect from year one in San Antonio, I hope is a starting position. Now let's talk about it. Now the Spurs don't ever just start a rookie. Not even Kawhi started his rookie season. He came in, took Richard Jefferson's spot, took Steven Jackson's spot, come the playoff time, and he was in the rotation as a starter. So it's happened before, but I wouldn't hold my breath, because as much as I feel like Sochan should be the starting 4, and if Jakob is going to be there, him and Jakob as your 4 and 5 definitely elevates the amount of rim protection and rebounding and kind of quick offensive turnaround and transition from your defense. Kind of, Sochan only boosts all that stuff, right? Offensively, he's a great finisher around the rim. He's going to be able to put the ball in the hole. I think that's one of his strengths coming out of college, is that he's a great finisher around the rim, has a nice touch. They're not always, nasty dunks, but, he's putting the ball in the hole nonetheless. Sometimes they're with a really soft touch off the glass and all that. So that's interesting to see from him coming into year one is to see that, is he can be able to finish around the rim, rebound at a high level, block shots at a high level. Because if he can do those 3 things, then there might just be a lot of minutes waiting for him this season. Now, in previous years, there's been that front-loaded veteran guys or guys that deserve minutes over these young guys like DeJounte, Derek, Lonnie. All these guys deserved an opportunity in front of guys like Primo and Vassell. But with Jeremy Sochan, I mean, there's really no one else to talk about. I mean, there's Keita Bates Diop, who might be, not even on the team next year because he's still having he's on a non-guaranteed contract still, and so there's a chance that he's one of those guys because we do have to let somebody go. There's a chance that Keita's that guy, so he might not even be there. That's one of the guys that's around the same build position as Jeremy Sochan. The next guy that might have something to say about Jeremy Sochan starting is Isaiah Roby. Isaiah Roby can either play the 4 spot or he can be the backup center, kind of like how he was in Oklahoma City. And the thing about Isaiah Roby is that he's a lot more skilled than some of these other guys. He's able to pass, shoot. He's a modern day big. He can rebound. His defense is so on switches, but so are most bigs. So Isaiah Roby starting day one at the 4 spot makes a little bit of sense to me if the Spurs are trying to go big, right? They go with Jakob at the 5 and Roby at the 4. Now, in time, Sochan needs to take that spot because he is a lottery pick. Let's not get it twisted. Sochan is probably just as good as these guys already. That's what a lottery pick is. They're kind of ready to go coming out of the gate, right? And if you're gonna tell me that all he has to do is beat out Keita Bates Diop, Isaiah Roby, I don't know, Doug McDermott, I don't know if Doug McDermott was really in that 3 or that 4. Him and Keldon were kind of interchangeable last year. So if Keldon moves up to that 3 spot and you slide in Sochan eventually, because the Spurs don't like to give guys anything. So, unless Sochan just comes out and dominates the court, which he has an opportunity to, because again, he's not fourth in line, to get minutes from all these veteran dudes. So there's really like nobody in front of him. So it's like, might as well just let him run, let him go and do his thing. And, there's something about the chemistry of his character. I want to talk about that for a second. I want to talk about how we all kind of knew he was this worldly guy. He spent some time in UK, he spent some time in Germany, right? And he came over to Baylor, right? He's just this really worldly dude. And there's something about his personality that comes across, and I'm started following him on Instagram, and he's going into the gym and the training room. He's seeing Keldon and Devin Vassell getting treatment, from the training staff, and he's over there joking around, and they're all having a good time. To me, that's confidence. That's confidence from the kid. He's walking into the gym knowing that he's ready to go and that he's just as good or is going to work just as hard as these other guys. And I think that's a good thing. The character and the confidence, they're like in spades with this kid. You know it just by the way he looks. I mean, just look at Sochan. He's got the hairdo. He changes different hair colors. He's got piercings. He's got tats. What he wore on draft night. What he wears outside of draft night. You could just tell that this guy is his own person. Like, he's his own personality, and he's equipped with all the physical tools. He's going to be able to come in and do a lot of things for us that we haven't been able to do with Keldon at the 4, like guard bigger guys. So that physical skill set that he does have does lend himself into coming in and helping this team guard bigger dudes. That's really the main reason why he's here, is because he's able to, he can guard small guys. If you go and look at his college tape, he has no problem guarding on the perimeter. But what he's especially able to do is go from guarding on the perimeter to guarding at the rim. And he's 6'9" right now, listed 6'9" forward, and he's super athletic. He's supposed to go up against, like the Jaren Jacksons of the world, those stretch fours that have been giving us a lot of trouble over the past few years. That's where Jeremy Sochan is supposed to be able to come in and help, because we do need a lot of help in that area. Zach Collins, Isaiah Roby, and Jakob Poeltl really are all we got at this point. So having Jeremy Sochan year one around the San Antonio Spurs is something that I'm looking to see. There's no reason for him to go to Austin. It would be Keldon Johnson all over again, basically just beasting on 8th grade boys. Is just kind of how it was. So hopefully there's an expedited process to get Sochan, or letting him earn the right to get minutes and eventually start in his first season. And that's something that I want to look forward to. So let's go ahead and talk about the 20th pick, right? The next pick, the next rookie we're going to talk about here is Malaki Branham, right? Malaki Branham started off a little bit slow in the summer league. He really just was almost just, I don't want to say slow, like he missed a couple shots, but he was just not really getting over involved. And I say that as a good thing. From a coach, I look at him and I see what he doesn't do, and there's purpose to why he doesn't do it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Lonnie would just kind of stand around and get lost and ball watch. Malaki, what I've been able to see, even in some of his off games, he had a couple of really good games this summer also, but in his off games, he was doing little things right, like spacing the floor, balancing the floor, knowing when not to cut, knowing when to pop up off the wing. Like, it's just like spacing. Like, if he was just balancing the spacing issue that they had this summer, because the summer league squad is they're not all that great. They haven't been practicing for too long, right? They get like a week together and then they got to go play. So there's a lot of issues, when you're throwing that type of product on the floor. And offensively, it was spacing in those first few summer league games, and you see him kind of fade into the background. You saw a little bit more of Blake Wesley showcasing early on. That was because the ball was in his hands. But let me tell you, Malaki Branham is doing all the little things the right way. He's moving without the ball. He knows when to make himself available and when to not make himself available on the offensive end. And kind of as the games progressed, we saw the bag come out. And I have a reel right now on Instagram where he scores like 23 points on 4 dribbles total to get those points. He really only put the ball on the floor when it was like a wide open layup or one dribble pull up for a jump shot, and that's, something I've been saying about Malaki is that he's a daylight seeker, and he's looking to get his shot off. He's looking to find opportunities to shoot the ball, and that's something that's very mature of him. He's also 19 years old. Now, talking about what we can expect from his rookie season, him being an offensive, kind of like this primary offensively gifted player coming out of the draft, he is someone that I can see benefiting a lot from the G League and being in Austin. I think, when it comes to guards, just like Primo last year, I feel like there's benefits to having guards play there. They do have a lot more to think about, a lot more responsibility when it comes to decision making and all that type of stuff. And Malaki Branham, he's not going to be a ball handler by all means. I'm not too sure at any point in his career is he really going to be a fantastic ball handler. But what he is going to be is like a DeMar DeRozan type player who knows, like when to pull up. DeMar knew when the space was there for him to pull up. And, Malaki can do that. He can do that from the mid-range. He's very technical with his dribbles, doesn't over-dribble at all. He has this sneaky athleticism where, there's a couple times throughout the summer league where he went up and like to posterize somebody. And usually the basket didn't go down. Like, he would try to dunk on someone, the ball would hit the back of the rim and take off right the other way or something like that. But the athleticism is there. And that's something that I don't think anyone has really seen too much of. He's going to grow into that. There's not so much like fluidity to his moments and movements. His movements are his movements are very, I would say, like stiff, robotic. He needs to loosen up a little bit, gain some flexibility and all that type of stuff. But within his game, it works. Within his game, he doesn't move around too much. He's just trying to get open and get his shot off, and he's hitting them pretty well when he does, right? So that being said, he's a shooting guard. He's someone that's going to come up. Let's say he does end up in San Antonio, right? He's definitely going to be one of those guys that has to fight for anything he gets. And that's because he is going to be playing behind guys like Primo, Vassell, and Trey Jones even at the guard spot, Josh Richardson for now, Romeo Langford for now. Like there's plenty of guys right there to kind of compete with him, and even some veteran guys. So if it's talking about him getting guard minutes at the 2 or 3 guard spot, he's kind of like 3rd in line, 4th in line, just depending on what the roster looks like with all those guys. And if that is the case, well then sure, throw him to Austin, let him play, right? Because I don't think buckets are going to be an issue this season, to be honest. I feel like they have been for the past few seasons, but Vassell can score, Primo can score, Keldon can score. We saw that last year, right? So we're going to try to get these guys more touches, hopefully. And Malaki Branham is just going to have to develop. I think year 1 for him is development at our pick 20, right, this season. So then let's move on to the other guard that we drafted at pick 25, combo guard Blake Wesley, right? And something that was a little bit surprising to me was, because I didn't really watch these guys too much in college, but coming out of the draft, Brian Wright was like, hey, we see him playing some point guard. And then when you see him in the summer league, he played a lot of point guard. Him and Primo kind of shared that responsibility, but for the most part, Blake Wesley had the ball, and we were running Primo off a couple different screens and trying to get Primo open in those first two games, right? Because Primo only played in those first two games. And you saw Blake Wesley play a little bit of point. Now, I wasn't too impressed. First initial takes right out the gate was that Blake Wesley at point is the third string point guard to me. It's Trey Jones, Josh Primo, and then Blake Wesley. But it all really, the interesting thing with Blake is that there actually might be an opportunity for him this year with the Spurs. Let's just say Trey Jones tweaks an ankle, or Josh Primo tweaks an ankle, has a sore this or whatever. Well, the next point guard available is Blake Wesley. I mean, by default, he has to be in this conversation of what to do with the point guard's position. And we saw, I saw him play in the summer, and he showed a lot of really interesting, positive notes of him being able to push the ball in transition, make basic reads. He can shoot the three. It's not the prettiest looking shot, but it goes in for somehow. I don't know. So there's a little bit of a touch there, and there's athleticism there from him at the point guard, kind of like Russell Westbrook ish, right? With that ability to just come in transition and explode, right? And so that being said, there's a lot of work to be had for him to run the point, right? And that's not easy to do under Greg Popovich on any team in the NBA. One, you're having to guard really good players. Even their backup point guards for most teams are really good, right? So you have to go and be able to hold your own as a point guard in this league, and especially if you get matched up on any starting caliber players. As a rookie point guard, like you're gonna get cooked a lot. So, defensively, there was poise there. Same thing with Branham. There was poise there. Good rotations, good help, things like that. But still a lot more learning to happen on the defensive side. So Blake Wesley, man, I mean, he's the big question mark. It all really just depends on what the Spurs end up doing at the point guard position. Is it Trey Jones? I don't know. Is it Josh Primo? Is he even going to play point? Do they want him to play two guard? I don't know. That bumps kind of Vassell and Keldon down, to the 3 and 4 spot. And I don't know if we want to really stay that small, unless, we're trying to not put our, biggest, more athletic, potent lineup out on the floor, and we're trying to just stay small for some reason. And the Spurs have been doing that. So you never know. It might be Trey Jones. It might be Primo, or Blake Wesley might be involved a little bit more than we expect, because unlike Branham, how he's really just a shooting guard, Branham is more of a shooting guard. Maybe if he grows, he's a 3 guard on the wing, maybe, but Blake has the opportunity, if he can handle the responsibility of being a PG, he might actually get some more tick this season than I think we're all expecting. So, those are my three. Those are the 3 rookies. They all kind of have different outlooks. Sochan, I'm looking to get in there early and seeing if he can bang with the competition level of this league. Branham, if Romeo Langford or Josh Richardson, Doug McDermott, if any one or two of those guys are not on the roster, look for Branham to then be able to maybe sneak in some more minutes, because it's a long season. Guys have injuries, opportunities show themselves at weird times, protocols are still a thing and all that. So you never know. But Blake Wesley, he is the question mark. He might be involved. He might be in the G League right next to Branham the whole time, but then that really means the Spurs are going to rely on guys like Romeo Langford and Josh Richardson throughout the season, and maybe they don't deal him until the trade deadline next year, right? So because those guys have value as well. And on the next episode, I'm going to be talking about the veterans. I'm going to be talking about what their roles are. What can we expect? Who might be on the trade deadline, all speculation and all that stuff. So that's the episode on the rookies. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment if you agree with me or don't. I want to know down below. All right, so go Spurs go, and I'll catch you guys on the next episode.